Hello, my name is Amari, and this is our review of the Book of Clarence, which will be coming to theaters on January 12th. So, to summarize the film, it's the age of Jesus of Nazareth, and amongst Jesus is also Clarence. He's someone who, despite being around when miracles are happening and the word is going out that Jesus is the one doing it, he still leans toward being agnostic at best and an atheist at worst. And what makes things really troublesome for him when it comes to Jesus is that he gets into a situation with a local loan shark, and now he has about 30 days to pay back said loan shark, or else he may get killed. And in the process of trying to figure out a way to either protect himself or pay the guy back, he tries to become an apostle. That doesn't work out. And then he realizes that, he could just do as Jesus does, become a Messiah, and in the process of that, make a lot of money. But as he goes on this journey to become influential in the area, he finds himself slowly but surely living up to the title and also paying the consequences for doing so. So the first highlight when it comes to the Book of Clarence is that it definitely shows a complication of faith in a way that's kind of interesting in a way. But you can see when it comes to Clarence, because of the times he's in when Romans are the oppressors, people who look like you can potentially enslave you and things of that manner. Having a belief in a higher power while you're suffering, while you're poor, and you know that you are, it's difficult to accept. And it even makes a very interesting point when it comes to how easily Clarence becomes a Messiah. For I think in the Bible, especially early in the Bible, if I recall right, there's a warning about praising false idols, and you can see from Clarence why that's in there and why it's such an issue, because if you're poor, like a lot of people that Clarence fools, it's good to know that a Jesus exists, that there's potential for God and a higher power, but if you don't see them yourself, they're not tangible, not something you can touch directly, beg from, pray to, whatever, it makes it so when people like Clarence exist, and you don't have to just believe or have faith, but you know they're right there, there's a whole difference in terms of dynamic. And then add in that Clarence is able to, with the use of his friends, perform miracles and stuff like that. It's easier to have faith, and with that you can see why for a lot of people it's not just the issues of what the church may have or may not have done, but also in general, you have to, in order to have faith in higher power, you have to have some reliance on the individuals who you live amongst. And if the higher power is not doing anything about genocides, poor children dying and all that, what does that mean for you? And you can see it's not the main focus of the Book of Clarence, but you can see part of its focus is how people need faith in order to survive, but other people reject faith because it's not presenting any option for them to thrive. Alongside that idea, you could also say that the Book of Clarence is trying to push the idea that history repeats itself or is never really changing. For in the Book of Clarence, the Romans are the oppressors, they're the ones dragging black and brown people away, and in some ways you can see that there's little moments like with Clarence's mother where there's certain parallels going on between what's happening in, I believe, Jerusalem in that time and then what could be considered happening in different places throughout the world. And granted, some of these things that I'm saying, whether it's about faith or whether it's about mirroring oppression, it could be something that I'm more so pushing just from what my take on it, more than this is what the actual filmmakers wanted. But as we go into the on the fence portion, you'll see why I'm trying to derive these interests, because I feel like there is a conversation that's trying to be triggered here, but the problem is with the Book of Clarence, the conversation that could be had is probably better than the movie that we're given. Which leads to the on the fence topic. The Book of Clarence is billed as a comedy, but I feel that his comedy is very subjective. For there aren't, you can tell that certain moments are supposed to be comedic because there's the beat in there that allows for laughter, or else there's this little awkwardness that LaKeith Stanfield is known for. And I'll admit, there are some moments like with Alfre Woodard when she's playing Mary and Clarence is implying that Jesus was actually a bastard child and she made up a story to kind of protect her reputation. Those moments are funny. Granted, I'm sure people who are very religious will find them blasphemous, but it's the problem with the Book of Clarence is you can see there's a lot of potential for it to have the audacity to really question a religion and poke fun at it, perhaps in a way like I'm assuming the Book of Mormon does when it comes to Mormonism, but it doesn't go far enough, and it's so meek in its comedy that it wastes the potential of all the actors who based off of their past roles, have the ability to be hilarious. But perhaps the real big issue here is that the Book of Clarence is over 2 hours. It is broken down to 3 parts, and as noted, it's not really like undeniably funny, and at the same time, it's not really moving either. And while yes, there is the ability to say that it's trying to invoke some type of conversation through its talk about faith and messiahs and leadership and oppression throughout history. At the same time, I feel like to push that is not recognizing that, yes, it may have value in terms of triggering conversation, but entertainment value, it's not necessarily there. Overall, when it comes to the Book of Clarence, I believe there are definitely some interesting thoughts here that, unfortunately, when they were expanded, became very bloated to the point that you can see there was some attempt to compensate for that with having a lot of comedy and notable actors in this, but ultimately, the film, while it definitely has some interesting think pieces that can come from it, it's not necessarily entertaining, at least entertaining enough to justify its runtime.